Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute. Hope you've been well. Today's video is going to be about editing, specifically in Adobe Premiere Pro, but I still think a lot of these techniques, or the thought process at least, might carry over to other editors. So if you stick around, maybe you'll pick up a thing or two.
If you have suggestions on how to make this a coherent video for the future and the next time I do one of these.
So we're going to be doing a breakdown of this spec ad. Even before we dive into the edit though, kind of want to get into the shoot, why we made this. Wise Coffee Leaf has been my client for a number of years now. Started working with them when I was very new to this entire thing. So in many ways, this video was a thank you video that I wanted to give them. The other thing is I have a friend who is becoming a DP and putting in the work to put together a portfolio and reel and all that stuff and reach out. So for me, it was more about creating an opportunity for him to get some work in, and for me, just to make a video for fun and send to Wise if it works or not. And the general idea of the video comes from that relationship I have with Wise. There's so much more depth to the brand that I hope more people would become aware of. And I guess it's a little bit of commentary on what I believe is necessary for marketing and a successful brand in 2021. So the first half of the video going in was just a general idea of, okay, this is what you have to see as a consumer, what we have to show you as a brand, because otherwise you're not going to consume this content. So you'll see these traits in the video where it's very fast cuts, very vibrant colors, very bold text, all this stuff that is supposed to really grab a viewer's attention. Play it through. Right, so I would say that's where the first section ends, right here, because now we're transitioning into seeing, okay, year-round income and stability. And in the second half of the video, I really wanted things to slow down and then focus on the social impact, because I've always been a very stark admirer of what they're doing. If I may bore you for another few seconds, the coffee farmers, they are unemployed for a large portion of the year after the coffee bean harvest is over. And effectively what the Wise Coffee Leaf company does is they use those coffee leaves. They began with hot teas, and then now obviously they have a ready to drink iced tea. So effectively they created this whole side industry using wasted coffee leaves, and now that is giving farmers employment year round. So again, I just really love that aspect of this brand, and I thought that should come through. I will say I think I failed this section of the video because I ran out of steam, to be quite frank. But the idea was the product, and then we have the projector in the background showing this is what is behind this polished facade. Diving into the edit. So we have that premise of I need to grab a person's attention. And I wanted to do this in two formats. One is obviously landscape, just because I wanted to use it on YouTube as well. And then the other one is a 4:5 format, which was meant for Instagram. In hindsight, I feel like I should have just made it a 16:9 or 9:16 actually for Instagram Reels, because I feel like that gets more traction nowadays than just a 4:5 feed post. But I realized that a little bit too late. I always try to start my videos with a hook, especially if it's a social media type of thing. And that just means a lot of info and a lot of vibrancy. But also to set the tone in the very first second, I wanted to use text. You see, and the line of thinking behind that was, okay, second half of the video, I'll use text again to show the difference. And I believe I ended up with, we hope you see. I feel like that's a little bit weak on the actual content of the text, but yeah, that contrast of this is what you see, this is what we hope you see. But again, going back, I think any hook starts with the music. So if we just listen to the music, I don't know what to call these, but I guess I would call these grace notes before the actual beat begins. I feel like that's a really good formula whenever you're trying to grab somebody's attention. And generally with lead up grace notes, you'll have a lot of distinct tones. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 or something like that. So right away in my head, I'm thinking, okay, 4 different cuts. Now, if it's 4 different clips entirely, I feel like that gets very overwhelming very quickly. And I mean, this is also overwhelming, but I just wanted to use the same clip and then just tweak it a little bit on each of those notes. The first one with you see, and then a hero shot. The second one, we have these insets. For those, I use the Justin O'D Show presets, video on that hopefully coming soon. If I turn these off, you'll see it's just stacking a picture-in-picture type of thing. And you can stack this effect as well. So I end up with these. And I've also moved down, no, I haven't. I just added a stroke, an outline to UC, the text. Next one, I have now left that outline, moved the text down, introduced a new color, and also added another set 2 sets of inset boxes. Differentiate again, I mirrored it, I believe. Yeah, it's another Justin Ondisho effect called origami. And then I've also, again, switched up the text. So it's just always adding new elements that are not too different from the one before, the step before, so that the eyes and the brain can relatively register and somewhat follow along. I think that's where a common point of contention is too. I'm kind of in the camp where I don't think the audience needs to follow along perfectly to everything. I think they just need to get a conveyed sense of rhythm, feeling, and a lot of just like subconscious stuff going on. Is kind of my approach. These cans, this logo, these colors. Like that's really all I'm trying to get them to register. And then I'll slow it down for the next couple of seconds or whatever, so that it's a little bit more easier to digest. But in the hook, just somewhere in that middle area of like almost too much information to whatever the opposite of that would be. So I'll play that through. Okay, so the point of these next 2 clips is doing the opposite of what I said the hook was. So the hook was to get the audience to register a certain amount of information, but not really get it. Like, what is this video about? So if they didn't get it from the first like half a second or a little bit over, clearly in the next shot, it's about these 3 drinks, these 3 cans. They don't really know that it's iced tea, but hey, it's a drink. Second shot, yeah, just like make it look pretty, lots of water droplets, focusing in on the name Wise. Maybe they'll catch coffee leaf. Not too concerned about that. One thing I've tried to implement on a lot of these clips, fun fact, this is a Fuji X-T4 clip, by the way, is the sense of pulsing with the bass or the kick drum. That's, again, just to create subtle movement to keep things moving along. And the way I achieved that was through keyframing scale. So I started a little bit bigger and then go a little bit smaller. And then from even then, I go tiny bit smaller, and that creates a healthy amount of movement, even if it's just 1 point difference. And then right at the end, doing an ease in keyframe, I believe, just to create a ramp. I don't know which one I used, one of these 2, so that it's just a little bit smoother and not so linear. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It's like a mini speed ramp, so it's not such a uniform movement. Basically, it just feels a little bit less robotic, and again, adds to that sense of pulsing. Next clip, did the same thing, just a whole bunch of keyframes and scale, so that I can add some movement. So the next thing I kind of do in my edits is just thinking, okay, well, what's a natural progression of clips? That's kind of the easiest way to start putting stuff together, because again, this didn't have a set storyboard or anything like that. Before I even look at my clips, I'm kind of guessing, okay, what would logically make sense to put next in this sequence? The concept is, okay, what's the typical drink commercial? If I'm thinking of a drink commercial, I'm thinking that there's 2, 3 main components of it. The can opening, can either pouring into a cup or a person drinking it, some combination of those 3. Right away there kind of gives the structure of the video, because I want to buy into what I believe a typical drink commercial would entail, do it in a very stylistic way. So logically in my head, the next couple of clips will be either a lead up into the final moment of the can's opening, or like I did, just going straight into the can's opening. Because this is meant for Instagram, and because there's a second half of this video that I need to get into, instead of trying to lead it into a build up of that moment of finally opening the can, I just dove right into it. I did it quick, and I timed the opening sounds with the music. Sounds off now that I listen back. But what I was going for was that. So that's on the beat. Here, what I'm trying to do is just, again, add a little bit of movement and color to the frame, because it's a white background. I thought a little bit stale. Here we have a little bit more going on, but again, the corners of the shot, just a little bit stale. And all it is again, keyframing the scale, and then just adding a green background that will be revealed. Same principle here, except I start with the border showing just to kind of continue the consistency. Again, it's just walking that fine line between jarring and like digestible. And little things like this of consistent amount of your borders or size of your borders, I think contributes to that. Where sure, you switch up the color, but it's not like a sudden jump in the size of the border. And then after a thing with movement, I like to kind of just, I didn't want to do another scale here. I wanted to keep it relatively calm, because there's already enough movement, again, with the ice falling into the cup now. And you can kind of see that here too. After that frame stops moving, I'm trying to just dial it back. So I guess the common theme throughout this whole edit is going to be is that interplay of speeding things up and slowing things down and just trying to keep things relatively in balance. I remember kind of struggling with this part too, these two shots. I was debating between a crossfade, but I just don't like the look of a crossfade. Yeah, I don't know. But here again, I'm just trying to keep it relatively center, but also getting bigger for a quote-unquote match cut type of situation with the next clip, except size-wise, obviously, it doesn't really line up. Adding more movement with a subtle scale and also keyframing the position so that I can center the cut. And then here we're going into, again, a somewhat match cut situation, poorly done, into now we have the outdoors shots. It doesn't really make sense to go in and out, like indoors to outdoors, but I wanted to get a shot of somebody drinking it and just had this footage, but also it just looks nice and makes sense, I think, to have iced tea shown with a sunny day. Now we have that pouring shot, which actually in hindsight doesn't make sense because it's already in the cup. Oh well. And this is why it's probably better to plan out your things, or at least to revise, but I don't know. But also see, maybe these types of things don't really matter at the end of the day. You'll notice that this is a version 3, and this isn't because I got revision requests from the client. Again, this is just a fun video for myself. I decided to make different versions and revise here and there. I think it was in version 1. This same section, I thought that was a little bit too choppy. Especially the transition from this shot to this shot. It was just too bright and then too dark all of a sudden. It's too different. So if we compare that to this, you'll notice that really the only difference I made was keyframing lumetri color. And I don't know if you are aware of this, but you can easily keyframe anything like exposure, contrast, highlight. So I just keyframed the highlights and shadows to make this whole thing a little bit darker right before cutting to the next shot. And I feel like that smoothens it out. Here's another thing. You'll consistently hear these claps in the beat. And those are generally very good points for quick cuts. Here though, I wanted to have enough time on the drinking shot, but if I had just let it play out in its full length, it would have been too long. So what I'm doing is showing the before he drinks or as he drinks and then after he drinks. And again, we're just adding some keyframes here. The reason it's cut up though is because the keyframes were doing something weird, and that just generally happens, especially when you're mixing a Bezier with a linear keyframe. And then after this Bezier, let's say I want to add another linear keyframe, it goes wonky, does its own thing. So after the Bezier keyframe, you cut it, and then you add new keyframes to the next clip. Transform effect. If you ever want to move something in an asset like text, or in this case, a video clip, in and out of the frame, I would suggest using transform instead of keyframing scale or position, because you can add something called shutter angle, which is essentially just this motion blur. If you can see, we can turn it down completely. We can make it very high, which is just too much. So I have it set to 80, which I felt like was a suitable amount. Here, I just really wanted to accent the wow. And to do that, I just made a copy of the clip, masked just around the mouth, and also keyframed the position to follow the mouth of the person underneath. Because the second that you make this bigger, this mouth bigger, it's going to be out of line. So let's say I get rid of these keyframes. You'll see that the mouth moves differently. Whereas when I had the keyframes, it's kind of tracking the motion and ending right where his mouth is. Here we have a little bit of a shake. I'm not too sure why. Again, I think, yeah, keyframes just do weird things sometimes. But I think it does add to the impact of it. And the sound effect too is actually not saying wow. It's just like when you're seeing the mouth move on screen, you get this notion that, oh, maybe he's saying wow. This is a cool shot. If we look at the original clip, slowed down. It was just a gradual slide with lights coming on. Sped that up quite a bit. You can see it's 625%. And I did this boomerang thing, which means you speed it up and then you nest it so that you can copy it, reverse it, and reversing it means it starts at the point where that clip ends, and then now it goes back to the beginning of that clip, and again I sped that up. I think this is also a really good example of when practical effects in camera, when you are shooting, can outperform or produce results that you won't get with just editing tools. And the reason I did this was to dive into the logo on this shot. You can see that there's a lot of keyframing here. This had many iterations as well. Here I wasn't sure, like I wanted to show everything, but it was just too much information, too little time, and that's why I left it static. You see that there's not a lot of flow or anything dynamic here. But refining and refining, I realized what I really want to focus on is just year-round income and stability. Mask coming in, and again, this is a lumetri color mask. You can really direct the eyes of the viewer to exactly what you want them to focus on. As soon as the mask hits year-round income and stability, I duplicated the clip so that I can have that move independently, cut to a new clip in the background. That's supposed to show, again, they can read the text if they want. I don't expect them to. What I'm trying to show is, oh, it's like a rainforest looking place. And then now I can switch into kind of the more foliage clips. And again, playing with text, which I completely glossed over here, I think. Right, we hope you see your impact. And again, playing with text and visuals is a really important component. We hope you see this. I'm showing exactly what I hope the audience sees as soon as I show that text. We hope you see on the bottom of our can, in this little corner of our can, year-round income and stability. What does that mean? Oh, straight from what? Oh, your impact. We hope, and then it's kind of, again, playing in though. We hope you see your impact. I think this also changed though. The vision, it was the version 1, and then yeah, I think this is a little bit more personal to the audience and also still makes more sense at the same time, because this is what you're doing when you're supporting this brand and this product. You are giving work to these farmers, and this is kind of a slogan, think outside the bean, ties into this vision, so I just flashed that. Projector too, by the way, I think it was just for that nostalgic feeling. This is the memory of where this brand started. Visually too, that's why you see a lot of the colors are less vibrant. If you remember, I said I don't like cross dissolves, but I just got lazy because I wasn't sure how to transition from these projector shots to the actual archival footage of them working with these farmers, laughing with them, a little bit of the process with the kids. And I was thinking the easiest way would probably do like a Super 8 film overlay or whatever, and VHS overlay. And I think that probably would have produced better results. I will say I was just a little bit lazy and also just kind of want to veer away from that effect because I feel like I'm slowly overusing it and over relying on VHS and film overlays. And I also feel like they're becoming a little bit outdated. So kept it simple, cross-dissolved a whole bunch of clips. I just focused on adding more sounds of the place and laughter and children. I think that's all I have to say. I could ramble on forever and ever, and this is probably the worst organized video on this channel thus far, but that kind of just reflects on how I'm doing and where I'm at right now. But I feel like I just really wanted to get this video out, and I'm hoping that I can clean up this series because I feel like I can share a lot from the editing perspective, especially in this space of social media. I don't consider myself a very stellar shooter, lighting person or audio person or whatnot, but the editing side of things, I'm fairly confident that I can emulate a lot of things out there, except very tedious things. Kind of see even here that if I get lazy, I get lazy. Certain things require very tedious processes that I just don't think are worth it at the end of the day. But again, we're rambling. Anyway, sorry for all of the rambling today. As always, thank you for your time. Stay healthy. Bye.